Hello， 大家好，又係我高 B 哥啊，係時間提醒大家飲水啦，增添智慧，增添水分，智慧如水啊！好啦，嚟到錄片時間，2022年嘅12月2號啊，今日係星期五嚟噶，咁啊，而家係傍晚嘅6點零鐘。高 B 哥咧錄埋呢條影片之後咧，一陣整理少少嘢，我就會離開咧，就今晚約咗人食晚飯，咁所以你會夜啲咧先可以錄影片俾大家。咁但係咧，首先我喺度咧好多謝啊，好感謝呢一位網友。咁我咧就唔開名啦，大家都知我我要保護我哋嘅網友咧就唔開名嘅。咁啊，但係咧佢好有心。佢幫高 B 哥咧節錄咗3條咧關於咧馬凱碩咧解釋俾西方人聽，佢哋點樣誤解中國啊，又或者佢哋點樣帶住偏見去做。咁啊，馬凱碩邊個嚟㗎？高 B 哥睇佢個樣咧都係即係外國人嚟嘅喎，咁所以好似唔係香港人或者中國人啊嚇。咁 OK，咁啊喺度咧我簡單咁介紹下馬凱碩先。咁咧好多人都認識佢噶啦，咁但係咧就高 B 哥都要簡單咁講講嘅。嗱，根據呢個維基百科就講啊，馬凱碩咧係一個新加坡嘅外交官同埋咧學者嚟噶，佢亦都係咧新加坡嘅印度人，曾經咧係做過呢個新加坡常任聯合國代表，亦都做過咧聯合國安全理事會嘅主席噶。咁而家咧就喺新加坡國立大學李光耀公共政策學院咧做院長嘅。咁啊，佢咧經常咧都對國際嘅事務咧發表咧佢自己嘅意見，尤其係對於咧美西方咧誤解中國或者誤讀中國，又或者咧故意去扭曲中國咧，佢經常性都發聲噶。咁啊，佢頭先講咗啦，其實佢係2001至到02年啊，即係足足20年前咧，已經係做聯合國安全理事會嘅主席噶啦。咁嗱，所以你唔可以話呢個人咧唔係政治人物啦，絕對嘅政治人物。咁啊，亦都咧做過咧新加坡駐聯合國大使，咁啊都做咗好多年期噶啦。咁啊，而家咧你會見到佢經常性咧喺外邊咧就接受訪問啊，或者咧去演講啊，又或者咧去啲 symposiums 啊，就同一啲商界嘅領袖啦，又或者其他國家嘅一啲咧政治人物咧去交流。咁啊，當然佢唔會淨係講中國啦。咁但係咧，我哋發覺咧，或者我哋留意得到咧，經常性咧佢都會提到咧西方點樣去誤解咗咧中國大陸噶。尤其是係咧，佢特別提嘅 Anglo-Saxons 啊 ，Anglo-Saxons 即係純白種人咧，佢哋咧成日都有一種咧傲慢啦、高傲啦、成日都覺得咧就係其他人種唔及佢咧嗰種咁嘅心態咧去睇事情。而咁樣嘅睇法咧，往往就係一個缺失嚟嘅，好容易咧就墮入一個咧就係即係睇錯嘢嘅圈套。嗱，有陣時咧，將一啲事情咧你講完出嚟之後咧，對方會有啲反應話我唔同意你呢啲意見嘅。嗱，今次咧，你哋喺呢個會議上邊咧，佢應該喺可能1到2個唔同嘅會議上邊咧節錄出嚟㗎嚇。咁你都會發覺咧，美西方嘅人咧真係咧的而且確咧就揸住美西方講嘢嗰種喉舌咧嚟到咧去問問題嘅。咁呢個咧正咧就正好俾阿馬凱碩發揮，就話你哋咧正喺呢啲地方係走咗去盲點，走咗去偏見位。嗱，我舉幾個例，我問一問你，你睇下你點樣睇下，跟住就解釋俾佢聽，又或者有少少咧係甚至乎係話你唔好怪我嘅直率，唔好怪我嘅坦率。咁樣講完之後咧，啲人都係無語噶，都係解唔到、答唔到噶。不過咧，呢個做法咧要係不斷同埋好多人不斷咁樣做咧，先至有輕微嘅效果。因為咧佢哋咧已經有一種先入為主感，亦都唔多唔少咧有一種高傲嘅感覺喺裏邊啊。咁所以咧造成咗咧，點解美西方成日都會睇錯中國大陸，尤其係班政治人物。咁啊，政治人物有陣時操弄政治，我哋都冇辦法啦。但係起碼咧，可以將呢啲影片咧去分享俾其他咧，你哋喺外國嘅朋友咧，等佢聽到見到咧咁樣嘅解釋，又好似合理喎。咁從而咧令到佢哋自己自發咧有興趣去揾翻究竟個真相係點，而打破咧美西方一路操縱住呢個輿論嗰種咁樣嘅即係方式啊，或者一個情況咁樣。因為咧，你俾人哋操縱咗個形勢咧，你冇辦法改變噶。好啦，嗱，跟住落嚟啊，我放影片。第2、第3條咧，可能淨係得影片噶啦吓 OK。
Thank you. Professor, you said a lot of wonderful things about China, and surely they're doing a lot of things right. But how do you reconcile the fact that to make it work for China, it seems to be based on a high level of repression, environmental destruction, censorship, a certain ideological stubbornness? I mean, we've spoken about Hong Kong, the Uyghurs. How do you reconcile that, and why do you think that's? I mean, do you think that's tolerable?
Thank you. I'm really glad you asked that question because your question captured very well the Anglo-Saxon media's perception of China. And I would suggest to you very bluntly that it's a distorted perspective of reality. Let's take the first word you use, repression. If the Communist Party of China only relied on repression to stay in power, it would not create the most dynamic economy in the world, right? It is by far the most dynamic economy in the world. It has delivered the fastest growing economy for 30 years. And it has done this by educating the Chinese people to a level and extent that the Chinese people have never been educated ever before. And you say it's repression. You obviously are taking the old Cold War mindset. I was in Moscow in 1976, and I saw repression in Moscow. And when I was in Moscow, the Soviet citizens were not allowed to travel outside the Soviet Union. That's repression. In the year 2019, 139 million Chinese left China freely. Guess what? Zero defectors. 139 million Chinese, right? That's twice the population of the UK. Went back to China. So all your description, when you say environmental degradation, China's climate change policies are far more responsible than those of the United States, which has not once, but twice withdrawn from global environmental protocols. Kyoto Protocol, the Bush administration left 8 years. Paris Accords, Trump administration left 4 years. And you know what? The reason why we're having climate change today is not because of new flows of greenhouse gas emissions from China and India. It's because of what the Western countries have put in the atmosphere since the Western Industrial Revolution. Get the data. The single largest contributor, cumulatively, right, is number 1, United States, number 2, Europe, number 3, China. Right? And the West wants China to pay an economic price for the current flows, but the West doesn't want to pay an economic price for what it put in the atmosphere. You want to deprive the Indians of electricity when the United States could just, by the way, if the United States could impose $1 a gallon tax, that would save the world. Cut down gasoline consumption, raise money for investment in green technology. Simple solutions. And by contrast, the largest reforestation program in the world is carried out by China. It has already reforested an area the size of Belgium or bigger, right? So all your descriptions capture the natural distortions of China that you get in the Anglo-Saxon media, which violate the rules of the Enlightenment, which say that you must be rational, calm, and objective. especially in understanding your adversary. And if the Chinese were as stupid and as incompetent as you describe them to be, don't worry about them. But I can assure you, you are now dealing with a far more intelligent and rational actor that doesn't fit any of the Anglo-Saxon categories that you applied to them. Please forgive my bluntness.
Now you're putting words into